Hello, my name is Tiffany and welcome back to my channel. If you like sewing and DIY videos, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I am back with another upcycle by Little Toe where I take old forgotten items and give them a new life. This video is definitely one of my more chaotic ones because I technically had to flip this dress twice, but in today's video, I'm going to show you how I turned this dated thrifted dress into this Carolina Herrera inspired party dress. I also have a very exciting giveaway, so make sure you keep watching and let's get started. This is the dress I'm going to be upcycling, and I thrifted this for $1.99, and I love the scalloped off-the-shoulder neckline, and this color is just so bright and beautiful. I am extra excited about this thrift flip because I am making this dress for my very first in-person sewing event. I am going to NYC Frocktails, and if you've never heard of that, it's an event where everyone who goes makes their own outfit, and I am definitely geeking out about it. The theme for this year's Frocktails is Studio 54, so I'm definitely going to keep that in mind while I'm looking for inspiration, but I am so excited, and I'm also a little bit nervous because I know everyone's outfit is going to be amazing, so pressure is on. So I spent a little bit of time trying to figure out what I wanted to do with this thrift flip, and this dress actually fits me pretty well, so I don't think that the sewing portion of this thrift flip is going to be too intense. I came across this Carolina Herrera dress on Pinterest, and it has this gorgeous beaded trim, and I think it's gonna work really well for the theme, so I'm gonna use it for inspiration. Here is a closer look at the dress, which is currently sold out, but originally sold for $5,490. This adorable mini dress has spaghetti straps and is embellished with floral applique and fringe embroidery. Here is the back, which is also fully beaded, and it has a zipper in the center back. This may be an unpopular opinion, and a lot of you may not like this decision, but while I absolutely love this off-the-shoulder detail, it does kind of limit my arm movement a little bit, and if I lift my arms completely up, then the whole dress shifts up. And the theme for this event is Studio 54, so I know I'm gonna be dancing all night, and I just don't think I wanna be fussing with my dress, so I think I am going to change the neckline. I'm gonna start by taking the dress in along the side seams, so I'm just gonna put the dress on inside out, and then I'm gonna use safety pins to make the dress a little more fitted. Here is the dress turned inside out, and I'm using the safety pins as a guide to mark out my new side seam. I remove the safety pins and go over the marks with an air erasable marker, perfecting the new side seam. I'll go ahead and sew this, and then I'll do the same for the other side, making sure that both side seams are as even as possible. This dress is fitting me a lot better now, so I'm going to use some safety pins to mark out the new neckline. I'm also going to be lowering the back, so I've used a pin to mark that as well. Finally, I'm also going to shorten the dress, so I've used some safety pins to mark where I want the new length to be. Using the safety pins as a guide, I start to map out my new front neckline, and I also use my ruler to try to keep things as symmetrical as possible. Moving on to the back, again using the safety pin as a guide, I draft a curve for a lower back, keeping both sides as even as I can. Don't worry too much about making everything perfect right now. You want to make sure that things are as even as possible, but this is just to create the general shape of the new dress, and I will be making adjustments later to make sure that everything is perfectly symmetrical. I went ahead and cut the top section off, and then I shortened the bottom as well, and here is the basic shape of the new dress. This next part is completely optional, but I want my dress to be fully lined, so I'm gonna go ahead and seam rip this entire dress apart because that's the only way that I can accurately trace out the pattern and make an identical lining. Seam ripping is very tedious, but it's also kind of therapeutic for me, and Daisy did keep me company for a bit. Here is the dress completely seam ripped apart, and next I took my time to match up the mirrored pieces, placing them right side spacing and trimming away any discrepancies, perfecting the pattern and ensuring that everything was symmetrical. Then I copied all of the pattern pieces onto some paper, and I'll use this to make my lining later. Now that I have all of my pattern pieces, I'm going to start putting the dress back together. Here is the front of my dress, and I'm placing the back of my dress right side spacing. I'm going to sew this side seam together, but for this side, I'm going to sew from the hem to this point, skipping this section here, and then sewing again from here to the top, leaving this open for the zipper. You can also see that I've ironed on interfacing for stability. I'm gonna go ahead and sew this together, and this is what the dress should look like at this point. Next is to sew in the invisible zipper, and I actually changed my mind and I decided to sew the zipper into the center back instead of the side. As you can see, I've already gone ahead and sewed the lining to the shell. I am a little bit of a mess right now because I am rushing to get this dress done. Note to future Tiffany to give yourself more than 2 days to finish an outfit. So I am so sorry for not filming the process, but basically I used the pattern from earlier to make my lining, but the only fabric I had that was going to work was this white fabric. So I used some leftover fabric from the shell to make a facing, and here is what that looks like. So I am a little bit embarrassed because, as you know, I was making this dress for NYC Frocktails, but because I don't know how to manage my time, it is now a few days after the event and I didn't get to finish my dress in time. I literally had to wear the dress with the lining still left unsewn. I did end up sewing some trim along the front of the dress so that I at least had something to wear, and even though I am really bummed that I didn't get to have the outfit that I wanted, I had such an amazing time at this event. I met so many new sewing friends and I'm already excited for next year's Frocktails. I am going to finish this dress though because it is my birthday this weekend, and now that this is officially a birthday dress, I want to do a birthday giveaway. I've been holding on to this news for a little while now, but I am excited to announce that I am officially a Singer ambassador and I'm going to be giving away a Singer sewing machine. If you've been following my sewing journey, you'll know that I've been a longtime Singer fan, so I am so honored to be part of the Singer family. They very graciously sent me the heavy-duty 6800C sewing machine, and I am so excited for one of you to win this as well. I'm gonna include a link down below on exactly how to enter this giveaway, but for now, let's get back to sewing. Picking up from where we left off, and you can see where the lining is sewn to the facing. Here is the back of the dress, and I've gone ahead and removed all of the embellishments that I had sewn onto the neckline, and you can also see that I haven't sewn the lining to the zipper yet. Now that the base of the dress is ready, I can start sewing on the applique. I found this floral applique on Amazon, which I really love and I think works perfectly, and I also found this trim that I'll cut up into smaller pieces to use as a filler. According to the timestamp on my footage, this process took me 24 minutes and 30 seconds, but I started out by placing these applique pieces first, and once I was happy with the placement, I cut out smaller pieces from the lace trim and used them to fill the empty spots. This was mostly trial and error and playing around with the different placements and making sure I was cutting both larger and smaller pieces from the lace trim. You can see the sun coming in here as the time passed, but I really enjoyed this process, and once I felt that everything looked nice and balanced, I went ahead and pinned all of the applique pieces in place. I'm hand sewing the applique pieces on, and I'm just using tiny stitches, making sure I'm only sewing it to the shell layer and not catching the lining layer as well. I just figured out a way to make the sewing process a little bit easier. I'm just using a piece of cardstock and I'm putting it in between the layers of the dress, and this enables me to sew the applique while the dress is laying flat, which is making things significantly easier. This was definitely a very tedious process and I was honestly enjoying it at first, and at this point of the process, I very naively thought I could finish this in 4 hours. I'm not gonna lie, I am low-key kind of regretting this right now because I feel like I've been sewing for hours and I've barely gotten anything done. And this is just taking so long and my back really hurts. So I'm kind of feeling like, is this even worth it right now? But I'm gonna keep going and hopefully it will look really good. It's been 2 days since I started the hand sewing process, and I want to say I spent about 8 hours per day hand sewing the applique on, but it is finally done. As you can see, I also added on these straps, and this applique turned out so good, and I am so happy with how it's looking. Now it is finally time for the fun part, and I'm going to be sewing on all of the embellishments. The original dress has these gorgeous pearl fringe tassels, and originally I was thinking of buying pearl beads and stringing them together to create my own fringe tassel, but to be honest, that sounds so horrible and time-consuming. And I so happened to walk into a trim store recently and I found this pearl trim that I think is perfect because it's already on a chain, so I think this is gonna work perfectly for me. And I also found some of this rhinestone trim for a little bit of sparkle, and the best part was this trim was 50% off. Here is a closer look at the trim. I bought 10 yards of the rhinestone trim and 15 yards of the pearl trim. I have my dress hung up and I'm sewing the trim one piece at a time. This trim was so easy to work with, and I could also just cut it to length with a regular pair of scissors. I used the bottom row of applique as a guide on where to place the trim, and the theme of this dress is obviously tedious because this was also a very slow process. I did run into a few issues with my thread getting knotted up, but it honestly wasn't as bad as sewing on the applique. I just finished sewing all of the trim along the bottom of the dress, and initially my plan was to sew trim all over the dress. However, I have run out of the pearl trim. I bought 15 yards and I used all of it for just the bottom. And even though the dress is not exactly like the inspiration, I am very happy with how it turned out. However, I will say I will not be hand sewing anything for a very long time. So close to being done, and I just need to sew the lining to the zipper, so I'm adjusting the shell and lining so that they are right side spacing. This did take a little bit of time because the dress is now pretty heavy along the bottom. Here is the lining and here is the shell that's already been sewn to the zipper. I'm placing my lining and shell right side spacing, sandwiching the zipper in between, and then pinning that in place. I continue to work my way down the zipper, and I'll sew this side together, and then I'll do the same for the other side. Here is what it should look like sewn together, with the lining concealing all of that messy hand stitching underneath. Last step is to hem the dress, and I definitely lied earlier because I decided to hand sew this for a nice clean finish, and here is the finished dress. This was definitely a labor of love, but I am obsessed with how this dress turned out. I love the new neckline of the dress, and the trim adds so much movement to the skirt. All of that hand sewing was so tedious, but I think it really paid off. And of course, my favorite part of this dress is that it's just so fun. I hope you all enjoyed this video. This dress was definitely a little bit of a journey for me, but I am so happy with how it turned out. And I'll be posting photos of it on my Instagram, so make sure you're following me there at Little Toe. If you liked this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And I love reading your comments, so let me know down below what you thought about this thrift flip. Don't forget to enter my giveaway for a chance to win a Singer sewing machine, and as always, thank you so much for watching.